Rare diseases are really challenging because there are so few patients, and because they're really fractured and split around the country, or the world in fact, so it can be very hard to identify them, to recruit them to trials, and that's the main area that everyone worries about, I think. And again, patient groups that can form nationally or internationally can give you access to that network very quickly, and this can really make recruitment a much easier process.
So I think one of the big changes we're going to see in clinical trials is a much bigger reliance on real-world data. So that's, instead of doing a phase 3 or a phase 4, that's really using the real-world data of patients using off-label medications, particularly in the rare diseases where there may only be tens or hundreds of patients in the world. It's not really practical to do a full phase 3 study on those patients, so I think there's going to be a much greater reliance on real-world data and things like off-label use.
We really have to take out the complexity that's been over-engineered into these clinical trials. We're just fundamentally asking too much. And so I think the faster we can figure out how to make use of information that's already available through electronic health records, for example, the more that we can find the right settings to introduce sensor wear, we'll do a couple of things. One is it will reduce the burden on sites, it'll reduce the burden on patients to provide information. It'll collect information in a way that doesn't put burden on patients. But clearly, the numbers of patients we enroll on each site today as a function of the protocol complexity itself is not sustainable.
I have to say I'm looking with great excitement at the recent Quintiles IMS merger, because it's really, I think, Quintiles always has been, of course, the market leader, and it's looking at it, what type of company they, like Quintiles IMS, what kind of services they really truly in the end deliver, because I think, of course, the intention is to create a new service category, combining healthcare data more thoroughly with service industry in the clinical research execution space. And how that is going to look like, to me, is and what does it mean for the CRO sector in general as an influence, to me is probably I'm most excited about for the next few years to see what that means.
I think probably one of the biggest changes is going to be both from a financial standpoint in terms of how drugs are priced, how research is paid for. It's going to be a case of understanding the role of various governments in terms of what pharma is going to be permitted to do, to charge, and all the rest of it. We're seeing a great deal of pushback in the United States, for example, over the pricing of drugs without the government being able to negotiate price with pharma. And we see the exact same drug being sold for 40 or 50% less in other parts of the world. It's hard to say, well, we're charging more in the US because of development cost or whatever. That doesn't really fly with the consumer anymore. I think we should have to look at it from the standpoint of return on investment. It's a good thing, and we need to have return on investment to ensure the flow of new drug development. But it's going to have to be rationalized against the realities of why are we developing the drug to begin with.
The problem we find is that the information is put in very technical detail and can be very difficult for a patient to understand. I mean, the very basic concept of informed consent is the patient can understand, retain, and comprehend the information that's being given to them.
When I listen to my colleagues in the industry, we have a challenge today because we're not very good at adopting technology and supporting that technology. So I think that there needs to be still some investment in efforts in terms of bringing that technology on board and also trying to make it compatible with the systems that we have in place. So our challenge is that technology can be very, very focused according to the supplier, and we need to have things that are compatible with the systems that we have today so that we focus on our patients, we focus on our people, and be able to support the patients, the investigator sites, and pharma people with the right user-friendly type of technology.